wherever and whenever you're watching this. So crazy that we can do this throughout the world. We're live right now on LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook. So if you're on any of those platforms and you want to let us know you're there, just put your name and where you're from in the chat, and we would love to recognize you. My name is Joan Kling. I am a leadership coach. I specialize in self-leadership and leaders that are becoming, for the first time, they're going to manage people. And it's just an unheard population, a lost population. It's usually like, okay, now you're the boss and good luck, and here are your people. And so I love to help those people. And I'm so excited to have my guest today, Michael Norton. And Michael and I met, on Sunday I have a show called Stories of Serendipity and Synchronicity. And we met serendipitously through a mutual friend, Joy Soto, who I met just through LinkedIn, through connections on LinkedIn. And I was having group coaching on a Thursday night, and she said, "Oh, I really wish I could join." And I said, "Hey, I have a seat for you." So she came on and we started, and she's in San Diego. And so it was a great connection. And so that's how I met Michael. And Michael and Joy are big Zig Ziglar fans. And I heard of Ziglar and I listened to his tapes, well, CDs. Michael and I were just saying there were probably CDs in the 80s and 90s, and went to see him live at San Diego State, where I graduated from, my alma mater. Yay. And I think he was 75 at the time, and he ran across the stage, similar to 75-year-old Mick Jagger. If you go to see him in stage, he just constantly runs. And I'll never forget the story of the water pump. That's my favorite, and it really sticks with me. And I love that Zig brings in basic core values to the work and to your family, and that they're non-negotiable. And Michael, I'm going to let you introduce yourself. If you want to put your last name on your name tag, you can, so people can know your last name. And yeah, whenever you're ready, tell us who you are. And
all right, Michael Norton, and not only am I a Zig Ziglar fan, started listening to his programs and attending his seminars, reading his books back in the 80s. But actually became a business partner with Zig in 1998 when I founded a company called salesrepsonline.com. It was the first .com portal for salespeople. And wow. Zig was a partner early on, official spokesperson for our company. We successfully sold that company in 2000. And then I was invited to be a consultant to the company as he was growing his corporate training business, came on as the vice president of sales after that. And I still remember the call when Zig and his son Tom called me and invited me to become the president of the company. So I was the president of the company up until 2010, as Zig was winding it down. So I've been in leadership roles, management roles, sales roles, because we all sell. So it doesn't matter if you're the president of the company or the person greeting folks at the front desk, we all sell. And when I left the Ziglar organization, I moved over to one of the other largest training companies in the world, Sandler, and I was the executive vice president of their global accounts team. The company has about to this day 250 plus locations around the globe. That's a franchised operation. But the other side of the business is corporate training. So sales management, leadership, organizational development, customer care. And I ran the global organization for the corporate training side of the business. And most recently, back in 2019, I started TRAMAZING, where I am now, CEO and founder of TRAMAZING. And what we do is we help companies who know they need performance development but don't know where to start. We help them figure that out, whether it's the enabling technologies, hiring assessments, performance or skills gap assessments, actual content and training, or how do you actually manage the training that goes on and then reinforce that training. It doesn't matter whose training it is. We kind of sit in the middle and just help the customer find the best solution for them.
I've always, is there anything else you want to say? I don't want to interrupt.
No, that's that's pretty much my career in a nutshell.
I'm trying to see if you forgot anything that I have here. Of course, you've worked for you've developed programs for all kinds of groups and organizations. And so it says the Hay Group. So was that out of San Diego?
No, the Hay Group, when we first started working with them, we started in the Netherlands. And then Hay Group was then acquired by Korn Ferry over time.
Oh, wow.
We were providing training for their frontline sales folks for years. And it started in the Netherlands and then branched out all over wherever they had offices. Really a great organization.
Nice. So it's not Louise Hay?
No.
Oh, that's what I kind of thought it was. I kind of thought it was Louise Hay. Okay. And all kinds of other CMAC, Boral, Cone, Quest, Cardinal Health, Army, National Guard, Dell, 7-Up, WebMD, I mean, and on and on and on. So you have all kinds of great qualifications. And today we're going to do our best to focus on first-time leaders, people that want to be first-time leader or people that find themselves in the situation of being a first-time leader. And Michael has developed a system that he calls leadership in a flash. And I love that because that's what the new leaders need. They need, just give me something really quick so I can go in tomorrow and be better. And the F stands for follow, the L stands for learn, the A stands for apply, the S stands for share, and the H stands for habits. And I'm just assuming they're just in alphabetical order. They're not in order of importance because I know how important habits are. But anyway, where do you want to start telling us about leadership in a flash?
Yeah, so when I do talk about it, I do talk about it in that cadence, in that order.
Okay.
So, and I'll give you the rationale behind that, Joan. So something I was taught early on, even playing athletics, in my youth, even going back as high school days, right? When you had really good coaches. I remember this one coach specifically said, listen, no matter how good you think you are, there's always somebody bigger, better, faster, smarter, could jump higher, can do, don't think. So, and it's not that you want to fear them or avoid them. What you want to do is follow them. You want to figure out who is the best in their position. So if it was a sport, who's the best in that position that you can follow and emulate? Who do you want to get by? Who do you want to, follow the leader with? And I'll share, is it okay if I share a quick story about how this, came full circle for me?
Of course. And it reminds me of, I played sports too. I played basketball up into college, and you're only as good as your competition.
That's right.
So, yeah. Well, Kenny's here, and he usually puts a few comments in, so we'll see what he has to say today.
All right. Welcome, Kenny. So how that came full circle for me, when I was running the Zig Ziglar organization, I had a reason to be up in Minneapolis for a business meeting with a client. And at the time I was living in Denver, and I remember getting back to the airport, and it was bad weather. There was bad storms in Minneapolis, and I was living in Denver, and there was really even worse storms in Denver. So the flight was delayed. It was summertime. The flights were delayed, and I was in the United Club, and they called us out. They said, "Okay, it's time to board your flight." And we went out, and it was a false alarm. Bad storm came in. You go, nope, it's going to be another hour and a half. So you saw all of us who belonged to the United Club. We kind of all went back into the United Club, and I was holding the door open. You could sense when somebody's behind you that you just want to keep the door propped. And I catch this big flash of red hair, just this big mop of red hair. and my children were at the time part of the Vail Ski and Snowboard Club. So I knew it was
San Diego, before you go any further, San Diego, once again, continue.
Yeah. So I realize it's him, and we go in, and we're all kind of standing online just to get the update, or if we have to book hotels, is it going to go or not? And so he and I get up to the counter at the same time, and I look over and I'm like, hey, how are you? And I said, I never like to bother anybody who I meet, but I have to tell you, my kids are big fans. They belong to the Val Ski and Snowboard Club. And he goes, oh, I know those guys. Those are awesome coaches. And he started rattling off like the names of my kids' coaches. I'm like, oh man, it would mean the world if would you mind like just signing something quick to them? And he did.
We should tell people who don't know who he is.
So Shaun White, Olympic gold medalist, the world's greatest snowboarder ever.
Oh my God. Carrot
so
Top.
So we sit down and I sit down and there's only one seat left and he winds up sitting next to me. So, we're chatting there and having a conversation. Super, super nice kid.
Yep. I met him. Yeah.
Yeah. And so then we wound up getting on the plane when we finally do get on the plane. And he's sitting right next to me. He's my seatmate, on the plane. And so now we have, this whole, we wait and there was some false starts again. And we finally got to take off. And after spending all this time, I said, hey, listen, if I would go back to my kids, and I say I just spent 5 hours with Shaun White and I don't get one snowboarding tip, I'm going to be like toast. I said, well, give me just one thing. And here's where it comes full circle about follow. And here's why, when I came up with this whole thing is the first thing. He said, not a lot of people know this, but he said, when he started, his brother was a phenomenal snowboarder, mm-hmm. His older brother. Mm-hmm. And he would get in the terrain park and follow his brother wherever he went. If he dipped a shoulder, he dipped a shoulder. He bent, whatever, he turned, he was on his heels. And then he would just sit in the terrain park before he even would go and practice anything. This is when he was much younger, right? And he would look for the best people in the park. And he would get in and follow them and do whatever they were doing. So I'm like, wow, I was taught that a long time ago, but I never thought about that. So when I brought it back to my kids, I'm like, listen, don't always be so aggressive. You always want to be the first one on the chair. You always want to be the first one into the park. Sit back, look for the guys and gals who are really super good and understand what they're doing. So that's where the follow started. And then as I thought back along my career, one of the things I think we're new leaders, especially when I was a new leader, at some point in my life too, but you've been put in a leadership position for a reason. And it's because most times you've got the skills, you've got potential, and somebody sees that you can really help their team or the organization go to another level. And sometimes as new leaders, we don't trust ourselves. We don't trust our instincts. We don't trust our gut. We start to buy into what we want to please other people. We want to please everybody on our team. And, in a leadership position, you can't always do that. Mm-hmm. People, if one thing I've learned is people may not always like the decisions you make, but they want somebody who leads. They don't want somebody who waffles. And 9 times out of 10, we all know we can trust our gut. Our gut knows before our head knows, mm-hmm. right? And if for any new leader out there, you've got the education, you've got the experience, you understand what probably is the right thing to do. And if you always follow right, you're 9 out of 10 times going to be in a good position. So if you're following the virtues and the values like the Zig Ziglars and the Stephen Coveys and the Dennis Whateleys and mm-hmm. everything that's talked about, mm-hmm. Integrity and honesty and mm-hmm. transparency, right?
Exactly.
Right, follow your instincts. And then this is one, Joan, you might remember this if you listen to those Zig Ziglar tapes, mm-hmm. Follow. And he would talk about the importance of reading good biographies. He was a voracious reader. He would read, and because I worked with him for all those years and traveled with him, he would read on average of 3 hours a day. That was his thing. But he always said to me, Michael, and it was in his recording programs, he didn't just say it to me initially, but when we traveled, he said, Michael, what biography are you reading today? Because pick up good biographies of good, well-known, recognized leaders, not the folks who are shady or things happen. If you find really good books on leaders, men, women, foreign countries, military leaders, business leaders, that's following somebody. They wrote their biographies. there's golden nuggets in those biographies. You can learn and to follow what other people have done. Why make it harder on yourself? Why take the hard route? Take the easy route, right? Go, follow the people who've done that before and apply what's relevant today to that. So that's where follow comes from.
You know, it reminds me of when I'm coaching new leaders. I tell them, and I see you have cross or many. I don't know if it's a game on how many we actually see there. But
oh yeah, sorry about that.
you know how many boxes are in this 9-square box?
Yes.
Back in the day, they used to have WWJD.
Yeah, what would Jesus do?
And so I tell my clients, you know, have you ever heard of WWJD? And they go, yeah. And I say, okay, so just insert the J for one of these people that you want to emulate. So if it were Sean, it would be WWSD. And just watch them. Watch what they do. Watch how they don't get upset. Watch how they deal with. Most of my clients have a difficult time and are dealing a lot with ambiguity right now, especially with the pandemic. And I feel that more and more higher leadership are getting more indecisive and more indecisive. They don't want to make a decision. So then they tell this staff to do, well, maybe do this, maybe do this. And anyway, so I go, look at who do you want to emulate and think about that. And so it's very similar to your following. And so that reminded me of that. And I have to just tell a quick Sean White story. I worked as the code enforcement manager for the city of Encinitas for 12 years. And part of our duty was to adjudicate parking tickets. So he had a parking ticket and he came in and he said, and it was just the cutest thing. This has to be 10 years ago. And he said, my mom told me I should come in. And I was like, oh, he's probably the age of my kids. I think can I adopt you? He was so cute, and just so pleasant as we talked through the situation. And
yeah, really, he couldn't be more professional, more cordial, more open. It was really a privilege. I got to sit next to a bunch of people because I traveled millions of miles, and he was probably one of the nicest seatmates I had.
Nice. All right, so let's go on to learn, which we kind of touched on by reading biographies, but now we're on learn.
So I think one thing I would pass along to your audience and anybody who's joining us, anybody who came through my connections, and some people may have heard me say this before. But when I think about learn, I think I want people to learn what I call the 3 C's. Mm-hmm. And the 3 C's are very simple: confidence, confidence, and confidence. And what does that mean?
I think I read that. Maybe I read that on your website. I know I read that.
Yeah, you may have in one of my blogs or posts.
Okay, maybe that was it.
I've been out on this topic for a long time. It's kind of one of the things that I've been known for. But it's confidence in yourself is the first confidence. How do you have that self-confidence, that healthy self-image that Zig drilled into every one of us, right? In his Strategies for Success program, Blueprint for Success, as it matured, the very first element was developing and maintaining a healthy self-image. How do you believe in yourself? The second C is how do you, if you're a leader, especially in a business world or even an association or organization, so not-for-profit or charitable organization, do you believe in your product? Do you have confidence in your product that you are selling, right? So confidence in yourself, healthy self-image, confidence that your product, your service, your charity, your organization, your church can bring solutions to people, and then confidence in your company that they're going to stand behind those products and services and stand behind you as a new leader or manager. If you have those 3 C's, if you can learn and work towards building that muscle, those 3 C's, my healthy self-image, I can go through, you talked about ambiguity and indecision. If I am a little more confident in myself, a little more assured, I'm not going to have that ambiguity. When I have that, I can operate with that healthy self-image. If I can come to know my products and services better than anybody on the planet, right? And all of the things that we can do for society, for our community, for our customers, I really need to know that I have true confidence that I'm the most knowledgeable about my products and services and solutions. And then I have confidence in my company, whether I'm the CEO or a middle manager, an executive in the organization. If I have confidence in my company that we will stand behind the products and stand behind our people, you can go, I will tell you can go toe to toe with any competitor, you can go toe to toe with any purchaser, with any adversary. When you learn to apply those 3 C's. But then I throw in a 4th C just to make it interesting. And the 4th C is not confidence. Because you have the 3 C's, that's confidence, confidence, and confidence. The 4th C is continuous learning. And every great biography that I've ever read, if I've sat, as I said, I've taken tons of flights, and I've sat next to, one of my favorite things is my seatmates. I love to find out what they do. I've heard of so many niche businesses and things I've never even thought of as a business, right? But the top performers, whether they're a really high-performing salesperson, really high-performing executive or CEO, we start talking about the library of books that we have, or books that we have in common, or seminars that we've attended, to continue to sharpen the saw. And Stephen Covey always talks about sharpening the saw. It doesn't matter if you're right out of, at any level of schooling, in your first job, you're becoming a new leader. Never stop learning. Seek out. And you can wait. And this is something that I'll share with everybody. You can wait until your company decides to give you directed training, where they're going to put you through a leadership program, a supervisory program. And maybe you want to go, maybe you don't want to go, so you're not really vested. But when you personally decide that you want to sign up, and out of your own pocket, give them a credit card, put down some money, and invest in yourself, it is the best thing you can do.
It's a big difference.
It's a huge difference. Yep, it's an absolutely huge difference. So, have the confidence, pursue the continuous learning. And I'll just go back to what I said a little bit ago, because when you do that, when others on your team is a new leader, you can't be a new leader and then tell your folks that they have to get industry knowledge or they have to get product knowledge, and you're not doing it yourself.
Exactly.
As a leader, you can't tell your people, you know what, we're not going to be putting people through sales training this year or until 6 months from now. Just go sign up for some courses, even though you're not. Right? You've got to be a product of your brand as a leader. You have to see yourself as that leader, and whatever you're asking your people to do, you better be doing it yourself or have already done it. So you're not giving guidance when you're guessing at that, right? But if you've walked in those shoes and you've done it.
Well, sure, because as the leader, whether you want to or not, you are the one now that people are following, that are watching, and we're molding people. It's a great responsibility. We're molding people's lives and their families, and like a drop in the pond, a rock in the pond, it just goes. And not only taking what they're taking, but more, so that there's no point of you being the leader if you know what I know.
Right. I
want someone that I'm reaching out to, that I'm saying, you're here, help me, put your hand down and help me up. And the other thing that I wanted to say was, I love that you start with confidence of self, because I call myself a self-leadership coach, and I think all leadership starts with self. You have to first know who you are. And as you said, if I know who I am, I have an easier time with ambiguity. I can go, okay.
Right, because there's different companies to talk about it, but the one that Sandler would always teach in part of their behavior, attitude, and technique is something called the belief wheel. And I know others have talked in different ways about this, but if we form a belief, then that forces us to judge something, whether we judge it positively or negatively. And if we judge it positively or negatively, it'll dictate our action or inaction. And our inaction or action will dictate whether or not we get a result. So our belief drives our judgment drives our action or inaction, our action or inaction drives our results or lack of results, and it just keeps going. So, if you believe in yourself, if your belief system is rock solid, you won't have ambiguity, because you'll know what your true north is. You'll know the direction that you want to go, and you trust again. You follow your instincts, because 99 times out of 10 you're going to be right.
Right, and I have this program that I call Leadership Legacy Story. In that process, you tell your staff what your beliefs are, who has molded you, who inspires you, what your values are, what you can expect of me, what I expect of you, so that it's not a secret. We're not playing the glass jar, the looking glass. No, I don't know what I'm saying. Where you go get your palm read or something, and they look in the jar.
Crystal ball. Crystal ball.
Crystal ball. Thank you. We're not talking about I have a crystal ball. I expect you to know. So honesty is my top value. So if you did something, I worked most of my life in government. If you dinged the city car, it's probably better for you to tell me right away than for me to find out.
Right.
So, okay.
And then lastly, on the learn piece, you've probably heard this before too. The best way to learn something is learn how to teach it.
Oh yeah.
Right? And the best strategy I could give anybody, especially a new leader, is do not be in statement mode, like where you're telling people what to do. Mm-hmm. Be in questioning mode. Even if you already know the answer, question, because maybe somebody can add value, even if they're the newest person on your team. Question them on what their plan is for the day. Question them on the project that they're working on. Don't tell them what to do. Question them how they're going to do it. Ask them questions about what result would they like to see this week, or when this project's finished, what will make you the most excited about this? Instead of saying, hey, I need you this done by Friday, or instead of get into questioning mode. You will learn so much more when you stay in questioning mode, as opposed to trying to just jam something down their throat, your opinion or your statements, right?
Absolutely. And it gives them, it empowers them, and it gives them responsibility. So that if I say to you, when can you have this project to me? And you say Wednesday, I didn't say Wednesday. I was going to say Friday. You said Wednesday. Okay, great.
Their answer gives them ownership.
Exactly.
Their answer gives them ownership. I had the other way questioning works, and this is whether you're a leader or anybody on the planet. We know that sometimes public speaking is everybody's biggest fear. And I remember working with a client. I was coaching her, and she was a new executive, actually, and she was invited to the boardroom for leadership meetings, and she felt she was petrified of speaking in front of all of the people who've been in the company for so long and really knew their role. And so somebody had introduced me and said, "Can you give her a little strategy, a little help about her nervousness?" She's just literally getting sick to her stomach before she goes into these meetings.
Sure.
And so I talked with her and I said, "Listen, don't go in there trying to add value by what you will say. Think about 3 questions before you go in there that you want to ask based on the agenda that's come out. And as people are talking, don't necessarily just write down notes on what they're saying. Write down a question to ask them. When you start asking good questions, they'll think you're the smartest person."
Right.
And she did it, and sure enough, she'd call me up and say, "Oh my God, it was just, I didn't have to say anything. All I did was ask questions, and they kept deferring to me." And it's the coolest thing. Ask questions, and it's one of the greatest ways to learn. Mm-hmm. Curiosity, right?
Right. Oh my gosh, absolutely. And the joke about people are more afraid of like the top 3 fears. Public speaking is 1, and dying is either like 2 or 3. So you'd rather be, so if you follow that logic, you'd rather be in the coffin than giving the eulogy.
That's right. Exactly right. I love that one.
All right. Shall we go on to apply?
Yeah, apply. And so we're following, and it's one thing to go into the terrain park and get behind the best snowboarder, or be in a casino if you're a gambler and you're watching what other people, how they play blackjack, or whatever it is that you're learning. watching all these cooking shows, right? If you're following and you're learning, it does you no good to have all those ingredients to make a great dish and not cook, right? Or experiment. And the other thing I would say about applying, I reference Zig Ziglar so much because he was such a huge influence in my life. But he talked about when you go to apply something, you're going to be nervous. You're going to be a little scared. Or as a new leader, sometimes you're going to be given something that's really a hard task. You have to have a very difficult conversation with somebody. And we all know what that to-do list looks like. So maybe we do it the night before, maybe we do it the first thing in the morning, we look at our calendar, we go through and we say, okay, yeah, I've got to do this, this, and this. When we have to apply something, look for the hardest thing on your list to do first. Do the hardest thing first, because you'll sit there all day. If oh my God, I got to talk to Joan, it's not going to be a good conversation. And then you try to do other things and you say to yourself again, oh geez, I got to talk to Joan. And you start getting worked up, and now you're not focused on what you should be talking about. You're doing the other tasks you have on your list. Your mind is over on my conversation with Joan. Why not talk to Joan first? Get it out of the way. Get that right off your list. Then go to the second hardest thing and the third hardest thing, right? And then the things that we've learned when we're following people. What can I challenge myself with? How can I make myself go a little bit further? How do I hold myself accountable to trying something different?
Absolutely. There's a book called Eat the Frog First or something.
Yep.
And I follow Barbara Cochran from Shark Tank on LinkedIn, and she just posted that yesterday. Do the hardest thing. Cross it off your list first thing.
I remember hearing Zig before I even knew him or worked for him. And I apologize, my dog is barking. Of course, it's the UPS is here at the time during this. But even listening to those old cassettes and CDs, where Zig would say, if you got to kiss a frog, you better do it soon, because it's not going to get any prettier. It's only going to get uglier.
Right. Right. Yeah. So that is true. And there's a chasm there seems to be for first-time leaders, and not only first-time leaders, but okay, I have all this knowledge. There seems to be a chasm between applying, and often in there is perfection, self-doubt, and so part of my coaching philosophy is called imperfection is encouraged. Just try it. Just try something.
I 100% subscribe to that. So, and there's somebody else I don't know if you know her, I think she's in your backyard there, Dr. Marianne Rosenthal. Have you ever ran into her? Great speaker, had great content, but she was the first one I heard many, many years ago say, don't strive for perfection, strive for excellence.
Right.
And because there's only one perfect, we all know that, right? There's only one perfect, but striving for excellence. Right? I love what you said, how was it? Imperfection
is encouraged.
Imperfection is encouraged. I love it. And then, I think here's something for the listeners or anybody watching or participating today or listens to the recording. One of the things that I've heard, having been in this business for so long, is, that stuff will work for Bob. That stuff's going to work. Yeah, that'll work for them in that industry. Oh, that'll work for them because of their team or whatever. That stuff will never work for me. And in 100% of the cases, they don't try it. That's 100% true. It'll never work if they've never tried it. So here we are, and we went from follow to learn to apply. Get out of the comfort zone. Attempt it. Give it a shot, because we're all trying to move incrementally. Whether we're trying to do it like a rocket ship and go fast, or we're taking the crawl, walk, run approach to this. We've never been at a time where there's been more access to information, great podcasts, great books, short form things that are 30 seconds long that you can get something out of. But what a shame to take that all in, ingest that information, and never take it back out to anybody else and try to apply it. And the fear is that, what, am I going to look stupid? Am I going to fail? Right? It keeps people from trying. Just try it. You're reading these books, you're going to these seminars, you're watching or listening to podcasts, you're watching videos. There's, and I would never say I'm a great cook or chef, but I have to tell you, since the pandemic started, I'm watching a lot of cooking shows just because that's what, my wife and I, at least once a night, we're watching something, and I go and I try it. I experiment with it. So, yeah, whatever. If there's something in there to say, wow, that's a pretty slick little technique right there, I think that's worth giving it a shot. And new leaders, sometimes we're put in that position because we've been really successful at our job. We've been a manager or a supervisor, or not a manager or supervisor. We've been a great individual contributor on the assembly line, in sales, in customer service. We've shown that we are really good. And because we're really good, we get put into a leadership role, or a supervisor or management role, but never given the training. The initial training on how to actually do that. They're just, well, you're really good at your job, so what we'd like you to do is clone yourself and teach other people what you did in that job, but not give them coaching or mentoring or supervising skills and how to hold people accountable and setting proper expectations and inspecting what you expect. So when we get to the apply phase, as a new leader, if you're not getting that from your company, if you've just been thrust into a new position, or maybe you just started your own company for the first time. I love solopreneurs and entrepreneurs. You're leading yourself, as you said. You start with self-leadership. What are those things that you can do and apply? Like, what are those things that you can't be afraid to do to take you and your team to the next level, or you and your company to the next level?
Yeah. It reminds me of two things. It reminds me of in the Bible, don't put your light under the bushel, right? Yep. Put it on the shine. And then I love Marianne Williamson. I like a few of her quotes, and I read a couple of her books, but she said, she has a quote that says, "Your playing small does not serve the world." And as you let your light shine, you give other people permission to shine their lights.
That's right. That's right. I've heard it said, and I think it was, there's a guy by the name of Krish Dunham. He was a speaker and a facilitator. He grew up through the Ziglar organization. He's an author on his own now. He travels internationally. I think he's spoken just about every country where there's people now, over all the years. He's really one of the wisest men I know. And I remember him doing a talk to one of our clients during our Ziglar days. And to your point, shining the light, he said, if you're going to lift somebody up, you better be on higher ground yourself. Right? If you're going to lift others up.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah. Because it's on their shoulders, they're going to carry the company across the finish line. Right. And so, props to Krish for his life lessons. And then the last thing on apply, it's counter to what I said earlier just a few seconds ago about people who are afraid to fail. They don't want to try because they're afraid to fail. And we talked about Dennis Waitley just before we came on the call, and he's been a mentor and a friend and somebody who's really intimate with his content and his concepts. He had that program, his initial biggest seller was Psychology of Winning. And as we talked about, he just came out with the new Psychology of Winning. So if you're listening to this and you want a really great book, check out the new Psychology of Winning by Dennis Waitley. But in the first Psychology of Winning, there was this concept in there called positive self-expectancy. Positive self-expectancy. If we go in thinking we're going to fail, we're going to fail. If we go in thinking we're going to lose the game, we are going to lose the game. If we go and play golf and we say, we shoot lights out on the front nine, we shoot a 39, we're like, oh my goodness, how did that happen? I'm not that good. What do we do on the back nine? We come back with a 55, right? Because we talked ourselves into that. It's this positive self-expectancy. When you plan to win, prepare to win, then you can expect to win, right? And we have to give, as a new leader, expect yourself to win. Don't expect yourself to lose. Don't expect it to rain every day. Don't expect the sky to fall, or the customers every day is going to be a bad day. Expect it every day to be a winning day.
Well, that comes right back to your learn the 3 C's, self-confidence.
That's right.
Yeah. That doesn't say that we don't, that's not to say we don't have bad days. That's not to say that every day I wake up and go, hey, I'm great, and I had to learn to ask for help. I had to learn to do things that help me physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally to stay in the zone when I come off the balance beam.
That's exactly right. Yeah, I didn't mean to lead in. Yeah, you don't.
No, not at all.
Expect the best, prepare for the worst, right?
Right.
But if you go in expecting the worst, you're going to live the worst. If you go in expecting the best and you're prepared for the worst, you'll find that balance. And everything is the find mental, spiritual, physical. Keep yourself really grounded in all 3, and you have a much better chance of making your way through any of those rainy days or bad days or difficult times. Our friend we talked about that introduced us, Joy Clausen Soto. As a matter of fact, I'm sharing this book with somebody.
Nice.
Joy, I'm sharing your book again, Joy. She's one of my heroes. When you think about her attitude when she went through everything that she went through, her attitude of hope and her perseverance, and you talk about somebody who had a lot of rainy days and lots not such good news for a very long time, and she came out of it, but she went into every day with the best possible attitude, expecting the best. So
I'm just thinking of I got to read the book before it went to the publisher, and there's just one part that just tears me apart. I won't give it away, but it's at it's either Christmas or Thanksgiving, and she's at her parents' house, and
I think it was Thanksgiving.
That was I still get like goosebumps that how you can overcome and move on from such a devastating thing. But you're going to have to read the book. You're going to have to read the book to find out what we're talking about.
And it's a simple title called Joy. Joy.
Joy.
Just go research Joy Soto. And then, that takes us to the 4th one. So we talked about follow, then how do we learn by following people, and then how do we actually apply what we've learned and followed? And that comes into share. So someone along the way has shared secrets with you, right, Joan? Somebody along the way has shared something with you that you're like, oh my God, I've been doing this. So I've been taking the long road around this. And they just gave me this great little tip, right? Again, telling is not selling. Making statements is not leading. We want to share. As a leader, it's incumbent upon us, even if we were a great individual contributor in any role we played in an organization, association, in our church, in our family, how do we, and now we're like really leading, how do we take what we learned and make it a point to share? Not just say, I have a sharing mentality or I have a sharing personality. If somebody asks me, I'll share. Seek out opportunities to share with the people on your team what helped you become successful, what you've seen as best practices, because again, we live in worlds of apps and technology and calls like you and I are doing right now. We have so much access to information. It's the sin of the desert, knowing where the water is and not telling others who are thirsty where the water is, right? We know where the water is. We know what information has helped us become successful. Make it a point to say, today I'm going to share this with somebody. Every day, look for something that has helped make you who you are today and share. It's, what did you say earlier about the light? It's how do you shine that light? How do you share that light? How do you share that wisdom? And look for other people to continue to be your mentor and coach. We will never, ever, ever be to the point where we are know-it-all.
Hope not.
Yeah. It is, you are a constant student of the game. So when you see somebody else doing something, also flip that back around, go back into your follow and learn mode. Hey, can you share with me how you did that? Can you share? I'm seeing that you're getting through this 20% faster than everybody else on the team. What are you doing? Can you share that information with me? Share is such a powerful word, more powerful word than just telling, right? Sharing, asking. And we live in this world of, you think about some of the traditional leadership traits, but what we're hearing and seeing from people, culture, connection, collaboration, transparency, communication, empathy, right? Instead of just being bold, charge through walls, run through walls. And that was, I have to tell you, that was guilty as charged.
In a former life.
Former life. That was, get it done. I'm your guy. I'm your warrior. You need me to do it. I'm putting on the uniform. Put me in coach. I'm ready to play.
Get out of the way. Yeah.
Get out of the way. And now it's really, we can hit an instant meeting, invite somebody to a Teams meeting, a Zoom meeting, you can get on your phone and do FaceTime, whatever. And it doesn't have to be a 15-minute, 30-minute, or hour-long scheduled call. You can get something done in 2 or 3 minutes. I've got a client, he's down in Texas, that we're working with now, and our average length of our calls are 8 minutes. 8 minutes, because we have access to it. Just boom, this is what you need. Yep, this is what I need. Okay, I can fix it. He's a high D personality, very dominant. I respect that, but we share information in a very quick format.
Are you still a high D?
Yeah, so in case I do have any of my friends or colleagues or partners
or your wife, yeah,
or my wife or anybody who knows me, and I say otherwise, yes, if I take any of the assessments, and like the DISC assessment you're talking about, I grade out as about the highest D. Like what we're doing now, and I think I shared with you right before we came out, I really don't seek the stage or seek to be in front of the classroom. It's just not, the I side doesn't, I have to work at that. The D side comes extremely natural to me. So I have to work it all. I had to work at following and learning how to apply and sharing and becoming collaborative and a better communicator.
I had Gary Ridge on, and he was one of my teachers. I have a master's degree in executive leadership from USD, and he was one of the teachers. He's president and CEO of WD-40, and he called himself a turbo D, and then he worked at it, and he says he's now an I.
And I think, life events, as you know, if you've gone through this and you've got your degree in executive leadership, what changes in the way we're wired sometimes are major life events. If you happen to take that assessment while you're going through a big life change, death in the family, loss of job, loss of bankruptcy, it's something that impacts you when your mind is, you're taking that test and you're answering the questions. It could skew that. But then there are real life events that do change you. And I will say that becoming a grandfather, so on the scale of DISC, my D was extremely high, my S was extremely low. I had no S qualities, and but the more I've gone through life, and I had a life experience where I lost somebody very, very close to me, that pushed me a little closer to the S side. But having grandchildren, I've definitely developed some more S tendencies and some I tendencies.
I have my first grandchild too, which is why I live in San Diego right now. He's 7 months old.
Congratulations.
How old are yours?
2.5, coming up on 2, and 1 week.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, we're kind of sort of coming to the end, so we can go over, but I'm grateful for all your time. Anything else you want to talk about? Share. I would think just getting back to the same thing, be
proactive about looking for opportunities to share what you know.
Mm-hmm.
Because the more you get it out, the more you talk about it, the more you're going to hear in your own voice, oh, you know what? That was something I did really well, and I want them to learn from that. But I just realized there's something else I need to go learn too. So be vulnerable and look for opportunities to share, because you're only going to grow. The more you share, you're going to get feedback, and it's that whole collaborative piece.
And that kind of brings me back to what we said under learn by teaching.
That's right. Best way to learn something is learn how to teach it. And
then there's a saying, and I might get it wrong, oblige or something. It's like those that have a lot is expected.
Oh, yeah. From those who have much, much is expected.
Right.
Those who can give much is expected. That's right. And I think that's 100% true. If you have been given an opportunity, look, we're here to talk about leadership and new leaders especially. And I'm glad you brought this up, because it wasn't on the list, but it could be the S in addition to share here. Servant leadership.
I was going to say that earlier too, because I believe
servant's heart. Yeah, I mean, even if you don't believe in that right now, and you're listening to this, and you are have been put in a new leader role, or you're starting your own company, the greatest gift you can give yourself and your organization, your customers, and your community is to serve.
Mm-hmm.
To operate with a servant's heart.
Mm-hmm.
And we live in a society where it's take. It's how many likes can I get? How many loves can I get? How much feedback can I get? How much noise can I make? And if we flip that on its head, how many other things can I like? How many things can I love? How many comments can I make where I lift somebody up and encourage somebody else, affirm somebody else? Where can I donate my time? What charity can I get behind? The feeling of being a servant leader, right? When you have that kind of culture that you, whether your company, whether they believe in that or not, if you've been given a small team, if you can operate with a servant's heart, you will develop loyalty on your team like there is no other. People will run through walls for you.
Absolutely.
You're willing to serve them.
Absolutely. Without a doubt. Nice.
And then I guess the last one that brings us to is the habits piece. And Tom Ziglar, Zig Ziglar's son, longtime friend of mine and partner, and we've worked together. He came out with his first book, Choose to Win, a couple of years ago. Fantastic book, Choose to Win. And right in the front part of the book, so I'm not giving it away either. He was asked one time, he started picking up the mantle and going and doing talks and keynotes like his dad, was. And somebody had pressed him in a question. He said, "Hey Tom, what's the fastest way to success?" And because Tom grew up and I have a great Tom Ziglar story about the first time I met him, with Zig, and if we have time, I'll share that with you. But because Tom had grown up in that environment, and it was kind of in his DNA, he didn't hesitate. And he looked at the guy and said, the fastest way to success is to replace one bad habit with one good habit. Wow. Replace one bad habit at a time with one good habit.
Wow.
And over and over until you replace the bad habits with all good habits. So, when you think about your role, this is another thing that I've learned, along the way. When it came to trying to recruit for people on your team, there's an acronym that's, that people use. It's called the search model. Have you ever heard of that?
No, I have not.
It's the search model. The S is, so you're evaluating somebody as a candidate. The S is for skill. The E is look at their experience. The A is their attitude. The R is their results they've had in the past. Their C is the cognitive skills that they have.
Okay.
And the H is habits. And when you talk to people who use this model and they've hired successfully, you ask them, well, what's the first thing you look for? Because it spells out search, but to the point of flash, you can kind of jump around and it doesn't have to follow that order. And so I would ask people, hey, you're using that model. So what do you look for first? What do you think the answer was?
Attitude. Well, what I tell you, it should be. What it should be.
Yeah,
attitude.
It's attitude. And the second one is habit. And the second one is habits. What are their daily habits? What is their work ethic? What are they doing? Because if you've got the right attitude, whether you know the products or the industry, if you've got the best attitude, you can train people with a really great attitude, right? Mm-hmm. If you're trying to build a team environment, teamwork, and you bring people on with a great attitude, they're going to be a good player, on your team. And if you couple that attitude with a good work ethic and solid daily habits that they'll do every single day, they'll develop the skills that you can look if they had some kind of experience, the results will come. So I reverse, the order I like is attitude and habits for that.
You could start your own. You could start your own thing called hiring.
That's right.
Attitudes, habits.
That's right.
Awesome.
Hiring. And then, like you think about the habits for some of us. I'll share with you, I'm going to be 60 years old next January. So I'm 59 as we sit here today. And back in November, I was doing a business plan with somebody else, and for a company, for another person. And for whatever reason, I'm looking at the calendar that I was planning it out, and I realized at that time in November, it was 60 weeks to my 60th birthday.
Wow.
And I was like, 60 to 60. So I wrote a whole new plan for myself called the 60 to 60 Success Plan. And I reevaluated everything in my life, and I followed something I learned along the way, also the 5 F's: faith, family, friends, fitness, and finance. So where was I in all of those things? And what are some of the habits that I wanted to change, or what are some of the habits that I needed to build in order to, I wanted to arrive at 60 in the best physical condition of my life, the best spiritual condition of my life, the strongest family relationships of my life. I have a vision of how I wanted to arrive. And when I looked at all the things I had to change, I was like, oh my God. And so I thought, there's no way I can just all do this all at once. So then I went, okay, 60 weeks to 60. So every week, well, at least every month, I'm layering in one of the things I'm changing. And I'm 100% committed to that change. And then even sometimes weekly, I'm adding a weekly thing that I'll do for 7 days. And here I am. It's the end of May, coming up on May, so I'm almost halfway through, and it's been fantastic. But I had to break some habits. I had to replace, even if I didn't think they were terrible habits. Like, who thinks eating ice cream is a terrible habit? Well, if you eat it every night, I guess it becomes a terrible.
And I guess it depends if you just have the container and the spoon. I mean, no judgment.
I'm going to cut this part. I tell my wife not to watch this part.
Exactly.
She'll be like, that's the guy, the carton and the spoon. So yeah, I had to make some changes and replace those bad habits with good habits. And as a matter of fact, I wrote about this. I write a weekly column also. I've been writing a weekly column for over 12 years now. I've written over 600 and published over 600 columns in weekly newspapers, and I wrote the 60-60. I shared it. I'm like, you know what? So I was sharing with somebody, and they're like, you should make that one of your columns. I think a lot of people would find that helpful, that they could do the same thing. So I've had people reply saying, well, I'm doing it's past my 60 to 60, but I'm only going to be turning 40. I'll do my 40 to 40, or I'll do my 30 to 30.
I think it sounds like a book. I think it sounds like a best-selling book.
So it's been good. It's just about giving back. It's about serving. It's like trying to help and share with others. And the Zig, one more Zigism, since we have maybe just a minute left. Think about your habits this way. If you own, I'll ask you, John, if you own a $5 million thoroughbred, would you keep it up at night, feeding it booze and letting it smoke cigarettes? Probably not. And would you wake up in the morning, when you woke up in the morning and the horse was born, would you bring it like 4 cups of coffee and 6 donuts? No, you would take care of that $5 million thoroughbred like it was the greatest prize. Well, how valuable are you as a person? Like, right. What is your body worth? Mm-hmm. So, how do we change that habit to feed ourselves the good, the clean, the pure, the powerful, the positive, to in all that we do, eat, drink, sleep, say?
I can just say, 1 minute at a time, 1 day at a time, especially when it comes to food. Food is my, food has been my nemesis my whole entire life. Before we go on, something that you were saying, I think under share and how you can have these really short conversations with your client, 8 minutes. That reminds me of, have you heard or read Stephen Covey's son, who is also Stephen Covey, The Speed of Trust?
Yes.
And that reminded me of that. The more I trust people, I mean, we could have a conversation without even words. Hey, how about, yeah. And
That's right.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that reminded me. And of course, I have to hear the story about the first time you met Michael. No, I wrote down first time Michael met Zig's son.
So, as I shared back in the 80s, started reading Zig's material and listening to the cassettes before CDs and going to seminars, waiting in line to get my book signed, and at those big seminars. And when I decided I wanted to start my company in the late 90s, salesrepsonline.com, it was the first sales portal of its kind. And I knew I needed some big name. It couldn't just be Michael Norton. I was just some guy with an idea. And Zig was kind of one of my idols. Him and Tom Hopkins and Dennis Waitley were my three go-tos, and Stephen Covey. And so I reached out. I was cold calling. I was cold calling as I was starting this company. I was cold calling Zig Ziglar to try to get an appointment. And of course, the woman answering the phone was like, send us.
Who are you? Wait, who are you?
Yeah. So after multiple times, and then through a connection through Tom Hopkins, they got to Tom Ziglar and said, you need to take this guy's call. So got on the phone with Tom, and he and I spent probably an hour and a half, 2 hours on the phone where I described who we were, what we were doing, our vision for the company. And then I wanted Zig to really be an integral part of our launch. And he invited me down, and every Monday at the Zig Ziglar offices, they do a devotions. Joy I actually, when I was the president of the company, I invited Joy to come down and be one of our speakers at devotions. And so he said, why don't you come down on a Sunday night and get here early, because devotions Monday, 8 o'clock in the morning. And after devotions, let's pick a Monday that Zig will be here, because he'll always sit in if he's not traveling. And after that devotions, we'll sit down and talk to Dad. And he called him Dad. And so we'll sit down and talk to Dad, and we'll see if it makes sense. So, I think I said, can I be there next Sunday? This week, can I come now? And so I was there as soon as possible. Got there early in the morning. Brought one of my business partners, Mark Foley, and he is also just a huge Zig Ziglar fan. And we got there super early, and the door was open to the Zig Ziglar headquarters, and the first person that's walking by the reception area was Zig himself, and he couldn't have been kinder or nicer and welcoming and thanking us for making the visit down here. I thought my friend Mark was gonna have a heart attack. It was like it was his hero, and they got to shake his hand.
Right.
So we met with them, and we agreed. After a few hours, a meeting, they're like, "Yep, we're in. Send us an agreement. What do you need from us?" And I'm like, "Well, we're aggregating content, so I have a lot of content, but what don't I have?" And Tom took me personally to the vault, the in their corporate office, like books, cassettes, everything you can imagine, videos, and you just loaded.
Basically, a candy store.
I'm a junkie for personal and professional development. It's a terrible addiction for me. And he's loading me up, and he's telling me about each one as he's handing to me. And I'm looking at him, and he's beaming. So I said, Tom, I got to ask you, what was it like? I grew up as just a fan over the last several years. This has been your whole life. What was like that Zig Ziglar as your dad? And Tom is an extremely thoughtful man. And it took him a minute. His eyes welled up with tears. And he said, it was the most wonderful, unbelievable blessing,
Wow.
He and I became brothers almost immediately.
Oh my God.
It still continues today. He's just a super guy, and he's doing a great job keeping his dad's legacy alive and building his own legacy and brand now too. So.
Wow. Okay, well, how can people get a hold of you? I know we're over time, but I do want to give you a chance to, do a little sales pitch for whatever you want to. And how can people get a hold of you?
So I should have put my name there. It is Michael Norton, but the name is TRAMAZING. It's on my shirt here. Think about being tremendously amazing, TRAMAZING, or what we like to, what the real name of the company is, Training Made Amazing. So it's TRAMAZING.com. And what we do is we help organizations with performance development solutions. So whether it's a small company, an individual, or a large organization, we help them pick the right technology stack that they may need, or technology solutions, from a CRM tool to a marketing automation tool, presentation or content management tools, to the right training partner, or we help them build if they want to build their own content and own their own intellectual property. And then we help them manage it if they need it, if they're short-staffed on their L&D team. But basically, many of those customers that we work with, they don't know where to start. They know they want to improve somewhere. Mm-hmm. They just have a hard time wrapping their head around either the budget, who to call first. They think about maybe doing an RFP, and that's the wrong way to do any type of personal development. Mm-hmm. You want to really understand what the companies are. There's only so much information you can get from an RFP. Well, after 30 years of doing this, I've worked with all the largest training organizations out there. I know their content. I know what they're capable of doing. I know the industries they serve best. I know what KPIs they have a track record of success delivering. So I can point people to the right solutions to help them achieve the results that they're looking for. So if you're interested, mnorton@tramazing.com, or you can go to our tramazing.com website. It's pretty self-explanatory, and you can send us an email or communicate with us via the website.
And of course, LinkedIn.
And LinkedIn, that's right. The way you and I met through Joy. Yep, LinkedIn. You can find me on there as well. And we live, Joan, with an abundance mentality here.
Nice.
Zig's most famous quote is, "You can have everything in life you want, as long as you open up other people."
Exactly.
And that's not just a quote in a book. That was the way it was at the company, and that's the way we are. It becomes who you are. So if I can help anybody in your audience listening today, if they've got a question, they just want to talk about their new leadership role or a management role, or if it's a company looking to put somebody into a new leader role and they want a little more guidance on how to do that, hit me up. I'm happy to take a call.
Right. Okay, I'm going to put us back in the green room, and I'm going to hit this little button that says end stream. Thank you for joining. I will talk to you later.